morning. I am Diane Simmons at Cake Connection in Jackson, Michigan. And today I am going to show you several different things you can do with your edible images beyond just using it for a topping for a sheet cake. I am going to show you how to put it on just some regular buttercream icing and stuff if that's what you want to do with it. But I'm also going to give you some other ideas for things you can do. Okay? So before we get going though, let's show you today's prize giveaway right over here. We have a little assortment of things that I'll be using. So we have some Celebakes buttercream, both white and chocolate, because I'm going to show you how to do it on chocolate buttercream as well. Some ready-to-use royal icing, some edible glue cutters, some fondant, some bags, a palette knife, a sugar sheet. So a little variety of things for you. Alrighty, and if you have not joined us before, be sure to give a shout out, let us know you're here, say hi, share the video, whatever, just so we can get you entered, alright? If you don't speak up and say you're here, we don't know, and you can't get entered. So, first off, to show you, I just have an assortment of edible images that I printed off here. Okay, and I've used a few of them already. But I want to show you how easy they are to cut. So I didn't cut everything apart. It'll just be a quick and simple process today. So I have found personally over the years, if you notice they come, hopefully they'll show a little bit better now. I cut it in half. They come on this plastic backing to begin with, okay? And it literally peels right off that. There are other brands of images that have the paper backing. I will be honest, I used to have those here when I first opened, and we had so many trouble with returns, and people, they were falling apart on them, or they couldn't get them off the backing. Basically just very weather sensitive. So needless to say, I said enough was enough, and we have switched brands many years ago, and I have stuck with these. Okay, these, just if you are curious, these are from Icing Images, and we love Deb Icing Images. Okay, just such a variety of stuff. Start a pile back there. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this other one too, because I am going to show you how to put these obviously just on some plain buttercream. But then also, I know a lot of people, especially kids, teens and such, they want chocolate icing. So I'm going to show you how to attach them to some chocolate icing as well, and still be able to see them, okay? And I just realized I totally forgot. I was going to do one the other way. I was going to put it on there a couple hours ago when I got here this morning, and I forgot. But we'll get there. Okay. So one thing, you don't want to leave your images out open to the air too awful long. Okay, I'm just going to set the other one underneath there. So first thing, and we're just going to pretend that this is just our cake that we're working on. Okay, you want to work on fresh icing. All right, if you don't though, I'll give you a solution. So typically, if you ice your cake, and we're just speed icing here, okay? Oops. I might finish this off and make it pretty for the after photo. We'll see. I'm gonna spend too much time here messing around with it. All right. So if you're icing the cake yourself, basically as soon as you get done frosting it, you want to get your image on there, okay? So once you have it cut like this, you can kind of get it centered on your cake, figure out exactly where you want it, and put it down, okay? Now I do generally not have gloves on today, oh my gosh.
So we had a quick question.
That's very not me. Yes, quick question, what do we got?
How long are your images good for?
I usually tell people to try and print the images within the same week that they're going to use them. Now that said, I do have some people, you know, obviously out of state or whatever, that order online. Can you go, Eric? Can you grab me a fondant smoothie, please? I have to go back in the back room. Sorry, I forgot one thing. I thought I was so on top of this and ready. Okay. So rub over these. But as far as time-wise, you know, like I said, I do have some people that order in from out of state, and we'll ship theirs out a little earlier, and it works out okay. Okay, fondant smoother is the other thing I use probably more often than anything else. I use this just to go around and smooth those down, okay? Just press it down in. So once you've got that adhered well, then with your icing, you can still wait for it. Now, if you notice, I didn't sit there and mess around trying to smooth it out or anything beforehand. If, you know, just basically smooth your cake the best you can, but then go back after your icing crust over and take your Viva paper towel to it and smooth it back out, okay? And we'll do that in just a minute with that. Okay. And I want to leave my icing open because we're going to need that here in just a second for what I'm going to show you.
If someone was to buy their own sheets, how long are the sheets normally good for?
The sheets themselves, I've never even gotten close to the expiration date on them, but I order like cases and cases of them at a time when I get them. I think they're usually like good months and months, if not, I mean, when they first come in, I think they're good for a year and a half, 2 years out. And typically I use them up, oh gosh, within, I don't know, probably within about 6 months I'll go through and then have to order another batch of several cases. So, I mean, they normally, like I said, they usually have quite a shelf life as far as just the ones when they come in themselves. Okay, so we have some chocolate icing here. All right, and again, this is just some of the Celebakes or CK products. If you're not aware that they are rebranding a lot of their products over to the Celebakes name. Okay. And this, I will say, I normally use my own, or make my own chocolate buttercream. This is a little on the thick side. You could just thin that down with some milk or water, if needed. Not a problem there. And also, I did open it straight up and I just stirred it. Anytime I open up any of this canned icing, the pre-made like this, normally I would take my beater, like I can put my hand mixer right down in here and just stir it up with that. It stirs it real well. Okay. So, got that. It's going to be a heavy glove day, I can tell. Let's stand a little bit closer. Thank you. So, with your chocolate icing, and this would also be the same if you go buy a cake from, say, Sam's Club or your local grocery store or whatever. If you just go buy a sheet cake and say, hey, leave it blank for me, and you're going to run to your local cake store, or if you've ordered one from us or wherever, but you have an edible image you want to put on it, okay? You can still absolutely do that, no problem. So a couple different ways you can do it. With chocolate icing, you need to do what I'm about to show you here, okay? It is not an option, because if you put this image down on the chocolate, eventually as this sits, it will soak up the reds and browns in the cocoa, okay? And essentially ruin your image. We don't want that. So what you need to do instead is take just a little bit of your white buttercream, all right, and I flipped the image upside down, okay? And I am just going to spread a thin layer on there. All right, and we do not need a lot by any means. Like I said, just a thin layer. I'm not sure if you guys can see this. I'll try holding it up so you can see it's thin enough you can actually kind of see through it there a little bit, okay? That white is basically going to keep, clean, I got a little bit on the front of it there. That is going to keep your image clean and still show up so that chocolate icing and the colors, the red dye in the cocoa and everything is not going to eventually seep up through your image, okay? And now you can see I didn't clean my edges. I forgot. That's one thing. I do normally clean the edges off before I put that on. I forgot. Then go back in there. Typically, though, I would probably be putting a border around this, okay? So, there we got a little bit of that cleaned off. Now, the other thing you can do, if you've bought a cake from a grocery store, you don't have to say, oh, wait, I gotta go buy some frosting too. No, if you've just got one with white icing on it, okay? But if you purchased it from the grocery store, most likely it is going to be crusted over, okay? Unless if it's a whipped icing, it's going to depend how recently they frosted it. You know, if they just did it a couple hours before you got there, you might be okay just to lay it down. It still might adhere for you. But, here, I'll spread some more here. There, we'll just do a little bit here. I'll do a smaller one. Okay, so here we're just going to imagine this is the top of our cake that we bought from the grocery store. Out of the cooler, it's been sitting there for a while. Okay, and I want to put this W on it. These are a couple of our local schools right here in the area. My kids actually both went to Western. Go Panthers. And then I did a couple for our local Northwest. Did some little pennants for them that we're going to work with here in a little bit. All right. There, we got that big enough now. So, if I want to put this larger W on there, and again, we are doing the scenario where this is a cake that we purchased from the grocery store, okay? And the icing is dry, crusted over, but we really want to put an edible image on it, okay? That can totally be done. I'm going to show you how here in just a second. And you do not have to, you can do the method I just showed for the chocolate icing. You know, obviously you could certainly run along here and just put a little bit of icing if you have some. Put that on the back of this and go from there. Okay. I guess I should have trimmed some of these. Sorry about that. I thought it might be a little better to show you guys just how easy they are to cut. And I didn't really stress this at first too, but I find they cut so much easier, especially when I'm doing something like this, going in around details, or like even if I were cutting in around the head and stuff of this, so much easier to cut when it's off. So right here's my plastic backing for the rest of the sheet. Easier to cut when it's off that. All right. So take it off the plastic and then cut your detail. Okay, so for that, I just take a piece of paper towel, and it doesn't have to be exact or anything, okay? To the size, all right? There, so I have a piece of paper towel, cut about the size of my image that I want to put on my crusted buttercream cake that I had. So I'm going to be right back. Let me get this damp. I just got my paper towel wet, okay? And you see I don't have it drippy or anything like that. I just got it wet so it's damp. All right? And if it's wetter than what you think you want, just lay it down on another one just to soak up some of that. But then you want to lay that wherever you want your image on your cake, okay? Lay that down. I'm just going to rush this a little bit. You don't have to. I normally tell people just lay the damp paper towel down for approximately 2 or 3 minutes, okay? Just to soak in and get your frosting re-dampened, okay? And then you can lay down your edible image. So what that has done is softened your icing back up, okay? Whoops. And here I want to show you, I had some frosting on my finger and I just smudged it on there. You want to catch it right away, and I can wipe that back off and then you don't see it, okay? Other thing you can do is take, for something like this where I've got a lot of awkward edges, you can take your spatula around and just kind of gently push that in, okay? And when I do this, the main thing I'm trying to do is just press down my corners and edges and stuff, just so they stay down nice. Okay? Oh, we have questions?
All right. So, this one has a little bit to do with like the chocolate.
Okay.
Do you have to do the same with colored icing as putting the white backing?
Any colored icing. The only time I would say maybe not is if you had a really pale pastel color. But even then, I probably would, just to be safe. But yes, any colored icing, chocolate icing, anything like that, I always recommend take some white frosting, put it on the back of your image, and then put it down. So that way there's no risk of the color coming up and bleeding into your image. The longer it sits, the more likely that's possible to happen if you don't have that white icing as a buffer. Okay?
And then instead of the paper towel, could you just spritz it with some water?
Yes, you could spritz it. The only thing with that, if you spritz it, be very, very sure that you have just a light mist spritzer and not something that might leave droplets, okay? And the reason for that, if you spritz it, if you end up getting any like droplet of water kind of grouping together or anything, that will bleed up through your image, okay? So paper towel definitely safer, but if you want to spritz it, yes, you could.
And then for the person out there without a local cake shop to do it for them, if someone was looking to get an edible image printer, what would you recommend brand wise, or
I would
where would you lead
recommend
people?
you go talk to Deb at Icing Images, and then I'm not going to lie, I would recommend you think long and hard about it before you do it. Reason for that, I have had numerous customers over the years. I'm very willing, as you just saw, to tell everyone, go to Deb, go to Icing Images, she's got the printer, she's got the paper, she's got the ink. I cannot tell you the amount of hassle and tears and anguish I've had over the years working on these printers, okay? I am super comfortable with them. I'm not afraid to mess with them and do what I gotta do now. But that said, I have had so many late nights in here because I always make sure that my images are printed. You know, if we have a graduation season, it is not uncommon for me to have 15 images going out on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a Saturday. And I make sure they're all done before I leave the night before. Because if there's going to be problems with that printer, I want a buffer of time. There are several Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights during graduation season. I've been here until midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever, fighting with my machine. Okay? Obviously, the machines have gotten better over the years. I will say that. But if you are not going to be using this thing at least once, if not twice a week, it is not worth it. It's not worth just pay someone to do them for you. And like I said, I've had numerous customers over the years have went and bought one. They are back in here getting their images from me usually within about 3 months. Because if you're not using them regularly, that's about how long it takes for them to clog up and you really start having issues with them. So, for what that's worth, that's my 2 cents worth. But yes, if you want to go buy one, highly, highly recommend Icing Images. It's just icingimages.com. Like I said, she has the best paper that I have found there. We've been using this. Let's see, I've been open here for 12 and a half, well, almost 13 years now. And I think I started using her paper. I found out about that probably 12 years ago. So, I mean, it wasn't that long. We just kept getting so many complaints on the other stuff. So, and I've stuck with it since we've had it. Okay. And no, I don't get any sort of kickback from them. That's just, I prefer their products. So, and the customer service there is awesome too. All right. Next thing, now that you're a little familiar with that, so you get a phone call at 9:30 in the morning. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I was supposed to call and order the cake. I need to come pick this up around 3:30, 4 o'clock. Can you have it for me anyway? And oh, by the way, I need some stuff sticking up out of it. Okay? Probably not graduation type, but if you are doing this, I've done this last minute, or I've also broken a topper that I've made. Okay? Or I didn't plan right and I just ran out of time, whatever. I didn't get it made, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to have a standing up whatever character or whatnot on it. Oops, excuse me. Okay, I'm not sneezing. I thought I was, sorry. So, anyways, if you need something, like I said, if you've got, oh, it still might come back. I'm sorry if I sneeze. My allergies just started kicking up terrible over the weekend. So I'm just going to cut out random awkward shape here. All right. And This might even be a picture of the birthday kid or whatever it is that you need to make. Okay? You were supposed to have a sculpture of an elephant, or I don't know. Could be anything. So here's random edible image of item X. Okay? And again, this is just last minute phone call, or you get ready to put the cake together and oh my gosh, I just broke the topper. What stuff happens, you guys, you know? I've had it happen too. So, I want to give you a solution for it. We have a couple options. You can use toothpicks, depending how deep your cake is, how big your piece is. Something like this, I would not use toothpicks, okay? Because I don't think if I had something that tall, I'm not really going to trust that this is going to support that totally. So I would probably, those are too big. What I got? I would use one of my craft sticks that I don't see. Oh, there, wooden skewers up the top. Okay, Eric's on it. Just a second. So, to do this is just some parchment paper, all right? I personally prefer this, just a real skinny, but longer skewers. Nope, skinny, are there skinny ones? Those should be okay. All right, here we go. There are a couple longer skewers. Thank you. And I'm going to cut those down because obviously I do not need something, well, I shouldn't say obviously. Depending how tall your cake is, you may need something that long to go down through most of your cake, all right? There. So you want to get your skewers to whatever length you need based on your image that you're doing, okay? So there you can see I want them to go up that far, and if I have, you know, for example, a 4-inch cake that I'm going to stick this in, then I'm all set. Now, I have always typically done 2 of them. The only time I wouldn't put 2 in is if it was, say, here, we'll cut this down and I'll show you. Say it was a ballerina, okay? And all you have is just this one little leg coming down, you know, something like that. Well, yep, we're going to roll with 1 and call it good, okay? But otherwise, you know, if I can get 2 of them in there, I'm going to, just for a little balance when I insert it into the cake. So, some white chocolate. And I'm just going to pour that down. And then you just want to make sure it's large enough that your image can lay on it. Okay. Now I've got that pretty thick on there. I would say I'm probably up in the, like at least 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay. And I'm doing just, if you notice, this very slight jiggle that leveled my chocolate off. Okay. And then I'm going to put my skewer in and do a quick roll around with that. Rejiggle just so the chocolate settles back in around it. Then I want to watch, so right here's my skewer. I want to be sure and get that there. Okay. And then I am just ever so lightly, and you could take another skewer or the part you cut off, whatever. I'm just very, very lightly tapping that. Hopefully you guys can see. I'm barely hitting that thing, okay? Now, right down here at the base, the chocolate thinned out a little bit. So I am going to try and kind of push that up just to thicken it back up there. And if you don't, you don't. Okay. And I'm tapping again just to re-adhere that to the chocolate in that area. All right, so there we go. I basically have a white chocolate cake topper that I'm making, okay? And I will say, there are numerous times I did this. It wasn't an emergency situation. I just did it because that worked. It's just, I think it's a great technique as far as something quick and simple, okay? The only thing with this, you have got to keep a close eye on it, all right? You need a very sharp knife. I have just my little store knife here. An X-Acto knife is great for this, if you have one. But what you're going to do, my chocolate's not super warm, and plus I've got a little cool in here, so this should set up fairly quick. You want to keep an eye on your chocolate, okay? So out here in your excess parts, just kind of keep trimming that, seeing where it is, okay? Because you have a very slight window to catch this. It's not quite set. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it. But see where it's pulling there? There's going to be kind of, I call it like a sweet spot with the chocolate, where it's going to hit and cut perfectly. All right? We check that bottom drawer over there and see if there is an X-Acto knife in there. I think there might be. I might have an X-Acto knife to show you with that too. Don't quote me on it, but I might. Okay, not quite yet. And now I do want to check too, because up here I have obviously less chocolate from the edge, and it takes longer in towards the center to set up. All right. So right in here, I am going to go actually trim right by my image, okay? Even though the rest of it is not quite ready yet. Although we are just about hitting that spot. Oh, no X-Acto knife. Okay, so you're going to see it with the knife. But same theory if you have an X-Acto knife. All right. And you just want to trim around and just follow your edible image, okay? And if you know this literally, we're not on time lapse or anything here, people. We are completely live, so that is just how quick this set up. All right, so there is truly just that little window. And then, I'm not sure if you can see or not, I'm just going in right here at the edge. I'm just trimming that back a little bit, okay? But now that I've got it trimmed, I could go in and sit here and start messing around with it and trying to pick it up off there. However, I know from experience, my chocolate underneath my image is probably not completely set up yet. So I do want to just let the whole thing set for a couple more minutes just to completely firm that up, okay? Because I have occasionally broken just a couple of them because I've been messing around and didn't realize that this wasn't set up under there. Yes, question.
A viewer would like to know, when are in-store classes going to resume?
Well,
or in-house?
Seeing as we are in Michigan, I'm going to keep this as unpolitical as possible, but it would appear to most eyes watching the situation here in Michigan that we're probably going to be one of the last states to completely open up and be allowed any sort of gatherings. I'm just guessing, okay? Stab in the dark there. I don't know. I mean, you guys are getting information as quick as I'm getting information. I would hope that we can start them back up. I hesitate to even say June because I really don't see it happening, to be honest. I know a lot of people with their weddings and graduation parties and stuff, they're pushing them back until August and September. And even people with those dates are still a little, I'm not sure kind of thing. So I wish I had a better answer. Unfortunately, I don't. It is what it is. It's all a wait and see thing at this point. So when we can, we will. How's that? All right. So this, via the question, backed us up enough that we should be dry now. Okay. So I can lift that up and just gently, or not so gently, take that off. Now, if you have any rough spots, two options. You can take your knife and just very gently, I'm not doing much pressure at all, okay? Just kind of rolling it along the edge there, just to clean up those little rough spots, okay? Alternatively, you can take your finger. Just the heat from your finger is going to melt that down a little bit, okay? And it'll smooth those edges off. And you're all set, okay? But there, you can insert that into your cake, and you have a stand-up cake topper, okay? So if you're doing, you know, the grandkids' Paw Patrol cake or whatever, and they want all the characters, this is a great way to do it. And that way you don't have to spend $30 or whatever on the little toys. Okay? So, there's that. Whoops, that's facing that chocolate. Alright, I'm going to have to pop this back in the microwave here just a second. Let me do that, and then we will go on to our next process that we're going to do. I'm going to throw both my chocolates in there, get those melted. I want to show you putting these on Oreos. That's a very popular thing right now. Okay. And then I have some gum paste. We're going to put some on there too, and I'm going to show you some different ways you can make some toppers, and also with some royal icing. Alrighty. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I know we have a few guys on here with us, but I hope all you ladies, if you're mothers or fur mothers, or if you have fur babies or whatever, I hope everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day yesterday. I got to go over and have a lovely steak dinner over at my boy's house, his new pad. This is my baby girl this year, but she is actually out in doing her quarantine in California right now, so we'll see her when this is all said and done and she can get back on a plane again. Alright, so next thing, while I've got the chocolate melted, I want to show you, and then we'll be done with the chocolate. Chocolate covered Oreos. Very popular thing for graduation parties, okay? And we get lots of crumbs in the package. Let's get that back out of there. Alright, so you can do the Oreos, you know, two different ways. This is just a pre-shaped Oreo mold, alright, plain one. There's all kinds of cookie molds. We actually have some graduation ones that have the scroll right on the top. I think there might be one with a graduate head, possibly. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. Or the cap, anyways, up there. There's ones with flowers on them. I mean, all kind, you know, Valentine's Day. Some have little hearts in them. All sorts of stuff. And those you can paint in before you put the Oreo, but it's still the same process once you're ready for the Oreo to go in. Okay? So, we have our images. And to show you a couple different so I have these handy little cutters. Oops, here's my 2-inch. That cut these circles out. If you are doing any high volume of these, can't recommend them enough. If you are like very big into your treats and stuff, and doing orders for these all the time, with lots of different rounds, probably want some cutters, okay? But you can put these in. Oh, I'm not going to like myself for just trimming that like I did. Nope. I don't know if I can do that. Ah, fiddlesticks. Alright. Just a second. And I will show you why that was problematic. I didn't have anything to hold back here to get that lined up. Okay? I was just trying to insert just this little piece in there, and I can't get in there lined up quite right. And that's my own fault because I have a bunch of different things on here that I printed out. Usually, if I print these out for customers, that's all they're getting is a bunch of the 2-inch or 1.5 or whatever size circles. Okay? So in that instance, you would start out here at the edge, cut your circle, keep going, you know, go down through as you're going. But you need something out here to hang on, to be able to move it around, okay? With these cutters, and hopefully you guys can see this, I cut them upside down so I can see exactly where the image is, and I get a good cut. All right? And then I'll do these right here while I'm here. So this is just a smaller circle. All right? And I have the smaller printouts here. And same thing. You guys can see that, okay? Line that up and cut. And just go over to the next one, line it up, cut. All right? So super quick and simple. You can also do it like this was just a large sheet of flowers, just various flowers that I printed out. All right. This is a 1 3/4 inch circle. So just a little bit, the first one was a 2-inch circle. All right. Whoops, did not intend for that to do that. But I want to show you, I have 2 different options here. Actually, I'm going to cut out a few of these, just show you what you can do with them. There we go. Okay, so the 2-inch one, it will fit down in these molds, but if you can see there, it is very snug in there, okay? So if you're doing that, you do want to go around and just push, make sure it is down in there all the way. Okay? So we're going to do a 2-inch circle over here. And I'm actually going to do one because this is going to contradict what I just told you with the icing. But it works with the chocolate. I just did some earlier to test them. So we want to put some of our chocolate down. Okay. Then I want to take the cookie and push that down in a little bit. And I'm going to let that sit right there for just a minute to start to firm up, okay? What I found in the past, if I put the cookie and I completely cover it right now, it'll float up. We don't want that. So I want it to sit here right now where it thinks it's floating, but I've still got room to cover the back of it. All right? And now, whoop, I just realized I forgot. Tap it to get the air bubbles out. Okay? So the next one, This, like I mentioned, this is a 1 3/4 inch. So when I lay that down in, you can see there's a little bit of play in there. All right, and they move. So we're going to center those the best we can, and I will do one with the chocolate on it. And I'm just pouring right in the middle and letting the chocolate run out, and hopefully it will run even and just set even. So just go a little bit slower and steady with this as you're pouring that in there. And just pour right in the middle. Like I said, hopefully it won't move your image around on you. Alright, and then we'll do the same thing with our white. And I'm just doing the different ones here to show you guys. And again, I'm going right in the center and letting the chocolate work its way out towards the edge. That was just a little bit bigger of a dump than what I was anticipating. Hopefully it didn't move my image around on me. Where are my cookies? Push you down in there too.
Someone asked if you could put the images on the top layer of chocolate rather than the bottom.
Hold loose. I'm probably going to answer your question here in just a minute. Okay, now our first one, I'm going to let that set just a touch longer yet. So we'll go on to the next, and like I said, this probably is going to answer your question. Let's go even a little bit smaller here. I think this one's 1.5 inches. Yep, 1.5 inch one. A couple this size. Okay, so if you just go do a hand dip instead, I'm doing on white. Okay, so we want to dip our Oreo. If you don't have the mold or whatever, or you don't care for them out of the mold, they do have quite a bit more chocolate on them. Okay, so if you're not a fan of that, you can absolutely hand dip them, but you want to do one at a time or have a helper, because you want to get this image on right away while your chocolate is still damp, okay? To stick to it. Now, if you don't get it on right away, I'm going to show you that solution here in just a second too. But this way it's all set and done without having to wait anymore. Okay? Now, I have a disc right here. So I'm going to show you this while I'm waiting for these to set up just a sec. I'm not putting these in the freezer yet because I don't want to completely... I want to wait a minute. I don't need them like firm. I just want to make sure the cookies are set and they're not going to try floating back up anymore. Okay? So that's why I'm just setting them right here beside me. This is just a disc that I made earlier, a disc of chocolate. Okay? So, you have an image, you have something that's already been dipped in chocolate, and you decide you want to go put the image on it. Couple things you can do. You could, if you have melted chocolate, okay, you could definitely take some, put it on the back of it, put it on there. Other thing you can do is piping gel. Alright? Which is why in our prize, don't forget to give a shout out. Let us know you're here if you haven't already gotten signed up for the prize. So in our prize, we have some piping gel. Okay? Because piping gel is great for edible images. And I'm just brushing a very thin layer on the back of that. Okay? And then you can go place that where you would like it. And just tap it down to adhere it. And there, you have an edible image on. This was already, like I said, some dried, just a little slab of chocolate I made, just to show you this, okay? Piping gel in your image. So there's that way to adhere it. This one we put on while it was wet. I did not expect this demo to get messy. Oh well. Alright, so here we've got our cookies are pretty well set in there. Alright, so I'm just going to take a little bit more, cover the tops of these.
Someone wanted to know if they could attach a skewer to the Oreo after it is cured.
Hang on just a second and I will show you how to do that. You can attach any candy mold, anything like that. If you don't have, because I have people that will come in and I need to make elephant suckers, whatever the item is, but they need to make suckers. Okay, I'm going to tap this now, just to get everything leveled off. Just one second, let me pop this up in the freezer. Okay, so there we have our Oreos. We've got the images on the bottom. The tops are on now, or I guess it would be the bottoms. But we've capped them off, putting those in the freezer for just a couple minutes. Okay, so our Oreo that we dipped earlier, all right? Same thing you can do with any candy mold, all right? Even if it's not a sucker. If, like I said, someone comes in, I need an elephant sucker, or whatever the case may be. I have elephants, I don't have them as a sucker. But here's what you can do, okay? And I share this with people often. You can take a candy stick, which... Oh, wait, there are some in there. Yes, just 1 minute. We got candy sticks in there. So you would mold your item as normal, okay? Or, in this instance, we're just going to use our Oreo here. Thank you. But take your candy stick and some melted chocolate, dip your stick in, and just go to the back of your item and lay that stick on there. The only thing you do need to be sure, while it's setting up, you have something underneath it to hold the stick basically level with the height, okay? I know mine's going to set up really quick just because it's very chilly in here. I'm happy with it being very chilly. You'll never hear me complain. There, that would work. Okay, so you just want something that's that height to keep it level, okay? And let that sit up, and that'll take just a moment. But then we will have, oh, it's almost set. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to move on away from the chocolate. I guess I should have waited for the chocolate to be the last thing. I didn't think about how messy that was going to get. So there and there. And I know if you're just popping on and looking, if you didn't catch what we've already been working on, today would definitely be one of those days where you would look at this and go, what on earth? Nothing is finished off. This stuff is looking rough. Go back and watch. It'll all make sense. All right. So, next thing I have, I'm actually going to switch my gloves here because I got Oreo crumbs on those. I have some gum paste rolled out here. And same thought process with rolled fondant, okay? I'm going to show you how to make some of your own picks for cupcakes or whatever you got going. But this is stuff you can make these ahead. Okay? If you need these for last minute, if you forgot you needed them, whatever the case may be, I would probably recommend doing it with the white chocolate method that I showed you for this. Okay? But if you've got time to make them ahead this way, this will work wonderful for you. Oh, looking right over. Okay, so I printed out some pennant flags, just like the Go Team Rah 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 type stuff. Okay, and these are our local Northwest Mounties. I'm right here. My store is actually in their school district, but my kids went to Western, so we're hitting them both. Oh, Eric's back there doing a thumbs down. This is the local rivalry. So, what you do, piping gel. Piping gel is wonderful for this stuff, okay? If you're doing a bunch of these, I would probably just like run a whole bunch of piping gel all over my whole thing and put these on and then cut them out, okay? But I just did, I don't know if that's going to show up there, the shine. So, can you see where I put the piping gel? So it's basically, it's kind of mimicking the shape of this. Does that show up? Hopefully. Alright, so we've got that, and then just take a knife, and get my chocolate off the end of it there. And you could also use like one of the little cutting wheels that we were using the other day for one of our other projects. Okay. Now these, I do like, if you notice I've got a little lip of white here at the end of that. I didn't cut that off on purpose because of what I'm going to do here. All right, so I'm going to go in here and cut my gum paste. All right, let's hold this up there so you can see. So, Eric, are we zoomed in enough that they can see that? So I've got my gum paste, and then I cut it down and left that little white tab hanging over. Okay? So then, if we take a toothpick and some more piping gel, okay? If you need these longer, you can, but I find toothpicks typically plenty long for this, okay? So I just adhered that, I kind of smushed it into the end, and I'm just going to roll that white tab up over the end, and I'm just gently pressing that down, okay? And then I just got to neaten this back up, and I've got a little bit hanging over the edge there. Just going to trim that off so that's not seen. Alright, so there you have a pennant, and I made one last night so you can see. There, that's the one we just made. It's not dry, but this one's dry, and you can stick those down in your cupcakes so they'll stand up, just like cupcake pick. Okay? And let's do, oh here, I'll trim this. If you don't have the cutters like I've got to get the nice round cuts, that is okay. You can use your scissors. And this one, as I showed you, is not going to work in the cutter so well because I cut too close to it. Didn't give myself anything to hang on to. Now, one thing for what I'm about to show you, you do need a round cutter the same size as your image, okay? So I've got that. And it is easier to brush the piping gel onto your gum paste or fondant than it is to try and brush it on the back of the image. Okay? And plus, depending on where you're getting your image from, some of the edible image paper is a lot thinner than others. So if it's ever possible, brush on your paste or whatever it's going on to versus on your image. All right? And just reason being, you don't, if you happen to have some that's very thin, we don't want you ripping your image up. Okay? So we've got that adhered on there. You could just leave this as a disc if you wanted, which I've done a lot of times. If I've done a monogram, you know, something like that, and I'm just going to stick it on a cupcake. Okay, here's a little bit smaller one, but you can basically stick that in your cupcake once it's hard, and it'll stand up on its own. You don't have to have the toothpick in there. If you were doing a big swirl, like ice cream cone type swirl, once this was hard, you could kind of lean it up against that. Okay, if you want a toothpick in it, though, you would need to do that right now while your gum paste or fondant is soft. So we're just dipping that in. I just want a thin coat of piping gel on there. And this one, I do have writing and stuff, so it definitely has a direction it needs to go. So I need to be sure and watch it from the front here that I'm lining up where I want this toothpick to go in. Okay? There. And then I will generally flip it over and just kind of pat down and make sure everything's good and adhered. Kind of clean up my excess piping gel down there at the base. And again, we just let that sit and dry. And then I've got one right here that is, whoops, that's our soft one. Okay. So here's my hard ones that I made last night. And you can see they stand up great. They'll work great for cupcake picks. But this is something, if you know you have a bunch of orders coming up ahead, you can make this stuff up weeks, months ahead even, okay? And it will hold up great for you. And here's just another one, this small one. I put one of them on a toothpick last night. So if you want that, you could, and have it standing up a little bit farther out of the cupcake. Okay. And we have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, we got a question. What do we got?
I'm not sure how it would work, but do you know anyone who prints with dye-free ink?
Never heard of such a thing.
I was kind of...
That is such a specialty request. We've just gotten all the natural food colors and stuff. I don't know, because there isn't a huge need for it. I don't know, honestly, that it's worth anyone's money to do the research and development on it. And I apologize. I know that sounds terrible for the mom whose kid is allergic to it, and I don't mean it that way at all. I'm being honest with you. Most companies would probably just say, I'm sorry, we don't have enough demand for it to warrant putting the kind of man hours and research into it that would be needed to develop it, if it could even be developed. So, not to say it won't come down the pipe someday, but as of right now, no, it's not anything that I've heard of. So, okay. Last thing I want to show you. I'm getting terrible with my time. I just have too much I want to show you guys. Okay. This is one of my cookies I did the other day, but I want to show you how to adhere to royal icing. Okay. So I'm basically going to ruin the front of my cookie here, which that's okay. So we're just going to cut out real quick these couple. And this really, it's a lot of the same theory that we've already been doing. Okay. So there we've got a square. What else have we got cut out? Oh, here we'll cut one of these little bad boys out. Put on there. All right, so this obviously is some hardened royal icing, okay? So if you want to adhere it, two options, okay? This is just some ready-to-use Celebakes royal icing. I'm going to get some out and show you. So we could take some of this, probably using a great big knife or spatula is not my best option there. So we can just spread some of that around. Okay. And obviously I know I'm ruining my other cookie here. Typically this would just be a plain iced cookie that you've got. Okay. But you can adhere it down just with some more fresh royal, okay? Or, as we've been doing, piping gel. I've still got some on my brush here. It's gonna get wiped on there. Piping gel, honestly, that is like probably always my glue of choice, okay? If I can, I like gluing stuff down with piping gel. There you go. Also, just a little tip, totally out of the blue, random, nothing going along with what we're doing today. If you are attaching pearls, dragées, anything like that to your cakes, and you've been told to do it with icing, I beg you, you'll appreciate and thank me someday, do it with piping gel instead. Okay, just put some in a bag with like a tip 1 or tip 2 on it. You will not see when it dries, you won't see the little smush of icing behind it. And I can tell you, I don't know that I've had any fall off since I've started using piping gel for my glue for that instead of the icing. Because I used to randomly, just sporadically here and there, they would fall off. And okay. Alternatively, and this, I know this is going to look bad. We're just going to do it and roll with it.
Could you use water as a glue?
I never use water other than the method where I showed where I just did the damp paper towel. I never use water as a glue. I don't recommend it with an edible image because there is such a good chance of you getting a droplet formed, and if it does, it is going to ruin your image. Just there's no getting around it. It's going to make a mess. All right. There. Don't laugh. I know. I'm just... Okay, so we have a fresh iced cookie. You can take your image and just lay it down on there and just kind of tap it in. Okay? And there we have that. Then a moment of truth. We're going to see if it shows the chocolate. So, here is our full size, and that's the one, if you remember, I told you be sure, because this one is a 2-inch circle. These molds are 2 inches diameter, okay? So if you cut them to cover, completely cover that full top, be sure and push them down in. Make sure they're on the edges really good with that, okay? So there's that one. And then these are both, again, with the milk chocolate and the white chocolate, okay? And these are the ones that were 1 3/4. Yeah, 1 3/4. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of room left around there. This mess is driving me berserk. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you got a little bit of room there. And these I actually made earlier. Now what I was just stressing not to do, I want to show you, I did this on purpose so you can see. Okay. These I did not push down in. I'm hoping, because like this one I went around and I, was pushing real well around it. Does that show up? The image itself like kind of pushed up on the chocolate. I just poured some discs in there. But I did not push on the image when I put it down in the mold. Okay? So I just 2-inch. There we go. Okay, so these two, I just laid it down in there loose and started pouring on it. Okay, because I did not go in and like push and make really, really sure that it adhered up well and kind of creased down into the corners and everything. It basically pushed itself back up a little bit. Okay, so just be sure, again, if you're cutting the 2 inches with a 2-inch diameter mold, that you are pushing that image down in there nice and snug before you start pouring your chocolate on it. Okay? So, any questions? Oh, here's our stick that we used. And again, you can do this with any candy mold. If it were molded out of here, you could do the same thing. Anything that you have that doesn't have a sucker stick built into the mold, you can make your own sucker out of it still. Just some warm chocolate, dip your stick in, boom, you've got a sucker. Okay? And we have a question?
Yep.
Okay.
Since you put the edible images in the freezer, do you have to worry about any icy frost or condensation messing with the images themselves?
I have never had issues. This was just setting up the chocolate, so it's not in there for any extended length of time. I do not have experience freezing cakes. Okay, I'm being honest here. I do not know if it's going to stick to, or if it's going to start bleeding, anything like that. I don't have advice to give you. Hopefully someone else on here has experience. My biggest suggestion when you're pulling anything from the freezer, if it's been in there for an extended length and is frozen completely solid, would be to have it wrapped up well. First thing, hopefully you wrapped it before you put it in. So like even if you have, say, a quarter sheet cake in a box, wrap that box up in plastic, in foil, put it inside of a huge garbage bag, seal the garbage bag up, so that way your frost is not getting to the cake itself, okay? But when you pull it out, leave it completely wrapped up like that as it comes back to temperature. If you have the time and the space, I would recommend go from freezer to refrigerator for at least 12 hours and then come from your refrigerator out to your countertop. Okay? Leaving everything wrapped that entire time until it is back at room temperature. If you do that, I don't believe you will have trouble. Okay? But again, I don't have personal experience with it. I just know, the best way to keep the condensation and everything off the cake is to leave it wrapped as it's thawing. I mean, that much from different people I've talked to over the years and stuff, I know that is the number one thing to keep it off there, is to keep it wrapped up as it's starting to thaw. Okay? So, hopefully, that little snippet of advice will help. All right, Mr. Eric, do we have a winner today?
Yes, we do.
We do. Awesome.
I had them picked and I lost track of them for a second.
All right.
All right. A Felicia Coates.
Felicia Coates.
Yep.
Woo woo! Congratulations, Felicia Coates. I think that might be a local name. I'm not positive though. If you are local, if you want to stop at the store and pick it up, you are more than welcome. Or I am happy to ship it, either way. But just zip me your address if you want it shipped. Send a message through our Facebook Messenger and I will get that out to you. Other than that, we are all set. If you have any questions along the way, if you think of anything, feel free to holler. Okay? But otherwise, we are all set today, and I thank you so much for joining us. We will be back on Wednesday. I believe on Wednesday I'm going to do a bunch of little snack type treat things for graduation parties, using some stuff that you can get at the grocery store. So we'll see how that goes. All right, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.